consistently been brought up is the way this development will change the character of Rhostyllen itself. Now, Rhostyllen is a very close-knit village where everyone knows everyone else. It has a strong sense of community and identity. And there are valid concerns that such a massive development and the in-migration of a large number of people, a lot of whom will be commuters, will change the character of the local area. Now, as all of you know, we've seen an enormous amount of developments across the Wrexham area over the last decade. There's vibrant houses in Brimble, more in Rhostyllen, Wrexham, Tackervire, you name it, hundreds in the town centre. Now, all of these houses are priced beyond the means of local people. And the more developments we see, the higher the house prices go. So these developments, they're not for us, they're for wealthy commuters. And local people and our concerns are consistently being brushed aside. Now, we have a right to say what happens in our communities, and it's about time that town planners, and in this case the National Trust, took into account what local people's views are. There's actually no local need for this new village at all.
What makes the situation worse is that local people will not be able to afford these houses. I can only imagine how bad the traffic will be in this area if this development goes ahead. The people who are making these plans don't even live in our village, and they don't even care about our community. We have already had lots of development in Rhostyllen. If this development goes ahead, our village will become unrecognisable. We live here, these are our lives, and we have to look after what we've got, and once that green area is gone, it's gone forever.
So we thought, this isn't right. Planning and how and where we build houses has got to be something that has wider discussion, that people talk about more, and that people, if they say they're not happy about it, they get a proper hearing for that. We work now, something we would never have believed, we work a lot with a lot of different politicians, and actually my perception of politicians has changed a lot over the last 3 or 4 years. 4 years ago, I would have said all the stereotypes about them, and I didn't believe that a single one of them was worth anything. And now, after talking to a lot of them, I believe that there are a lot of very, very hard-working, honest, good people trying to make the system work. But in a system which isn't built properly, they can't do that. So even the ones who really care cannot always make the difference they want to make. And that led us to this key thing now, which is why we have, in the last 2 years, grown very quickly as an organisation from something which worked mostly in Gwynedd to something which works throughout the whole of Wales and is also working in partnership with people in England, people in Cornwall, people in Scotland, Brittany, and that is this idea that communities have got to have a greater say in their own futures. We do think that the balance is wrong. Right now, the balance is centralised. It's about politicians and planning officers making decisions and local people putting up with them. And what we want to see is that local communities have a proper input into what happens to them. That they can stand up and they can say when they don't want something to happen and when they do want something to happen. It's very important, I think, that you don't feel that you're a small number of people in a small village that nobody else cares about, and that if people just push you hard enough, you'll have to give in. Because there are changes happening now throughout the whole of our country. In the last 2 weeks, we've spoken to senior politicians with Plaid Cymru, with the Welsh Conservatives. There are representatives from Cymuned at this very moment in a meeting with the Liberal Democrats housing spokesman. And I just earlier today received a request from Leighton Andrews, who's the Labour Party's housing minister, for a meeting with him in the close future. And what we're saying to them about affordability, about local homes, about making sure that people can stay where they were brought up, really seems to be starting to grip, starting to make a difference. And it now looks, and I'm very, very excited to be able to say this to people in your position, it looks as if next year we will have a housing measure for Wales. And it looks as if there's a chance that it might be just a bit more than empty words, that it might get to grips with some really important things. One of the first things Leighton Andrews has said, and as soon as I read it, it made me think immediately of what's happening in Rhostyllen, is the Assembly are now going to make sure that county councils have the ability and are encouraged to demand 100% affordable housing on some developments. Let's, as Carrie said, let's not talk about 25%. Let's talk about why should we be building anything unless it's for local need. There's one thing we want to do and one thing we do. We want to give a voice to people who have something to say. I am not here to tell you what you should be doing about this development. That is not my job. Carrie's got some pretty strong ideas about it. Tara's got some pretty strong ideas about it. As people who live here, that's fine. My job is not to say anything to you about what you ought to be doing. My job is simply to tell you what we can help you do if you choose to do it. And that's where the experience comes in. We've got experience of dealing with the press, we've got experience of dealing with local and national politicians, and we can help people who've got something to say make sure it gets heard. We have no doubt that you can win this. If you decide as a community that you do not want it to happen, or you want it to happen in a different way, you have all the power and you have all the ability you need to make that happen. It is amazing how much difference a small group of people can make when they decide they want to make a difference. I am certain that if you decide you want to do this, that you can put the brakes on this development. If you stick your heels in hard enough, you will win. It is as simple as that. The two ladies here have spoken very precisely about Rhostyllen, exactly what's happened here. I tried to put that for you into context with what's happening in Wales at the national level at the moment. And the last thing I'd like to say is very much, I'm not sure if it's an appeal or just sharing something which is in my heart, which I feel very strongly about. I've had so many people over the last 5 years tell me and tell my friends, you can't change things. But if we look at the world we live in today, the only truth you have is you cannot stop things from changing. Everything around us is changing. If we do nothing, it will all change. The question is not, can we change the world? The question is, in a world which is changing every single day, how far can we push it in the direction of changing for the good and not changing for the worse? Thank you very much.